Hello, I'm EN Rowland and I'm introducing you to SDG 16, Peace, Justice and Strong Institutions. The main goal for this SDG is to promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable and inclusive institutions at all levels. In this regard, we want to look at human rights, the rule of law and corruption. So what are human rights? These are the rights that we have been granted simply because we exist as human beings. They're not granted by any state. These universal rights are inherent to all of us, regardless of nationality, sex, national or ethnic origin, color, religion, language, or any other status. They range from the most fundamental, the right to life, to those that make life worth living, such as the rights for food, education, work, health, and liberty. What is the rule of law? It is the principle of governance in which all persons, institutions, and entities, public and private, are accountable to laws that are publicly promulgated, equally enforced, and independently adjudicated, and consistent with international human rights, norms, and standards. What is corruption? It is the abuse of entrusted power for private gain. Corruption erodes trust, weakens democracy, hampers economic development, and further exacerbates inequality, poverty, social division, and environmental crises. Let's look at a model or framework for change in society. We can see here that governments, businesses, and civil society have important and interconnected roles to play for building or strengthening values and awareness, freedoms and institutions and actions. This SDG has 10 targets and 2 measures. Please go to the report 2020 to update yourself on the events, the global events concerning this SDG, and also visit the European Statistics website where you can compare different aspects of this SDG as it is handled in different countries. You can learn more about your own country and that of your neighboring countries. When we look at the implementation targets in Austria as of 2020, we can see that for the data that is available, we are on the way to making valuable contributions here. However, we still have some issues to solve in Austria. For instance, we still need to create or continue to co-create a collaborative ability to solve inter-societal and intercultural conflicts. We also need to foster more democratic culture and institutions. And we need to improve active participation of citizens. What might organizations do to make contributions to this SDG? In this regard, we want to think about the core purpose of this organization. We want to think about the stakeholders involved. We want to think about the impact that this SDG has on this organization and the challenges and costs that emerge because of that impact. And on the other hand, what opportunities or benefits arise at the same time. And then we can design contributions that are inward actions and outward actions, the difference being that in inward actions we control the aspects from the organization, and with outward actions we have other players involved that we of course do not control, but we might impact how they think about their own contributions. What might educational institutions do? What are their tasks? Here they lie in raising awareness about the need for justice, peace, and inclusion as the very basis for sustainability, and in pointing to the dangers and negative consequences for the world at large when violence, crime, and corruption and/or bribery are tolerated. An inward action, as an example, for educational institutions could be to engage students in collaborative design activities for peace, justice, and strong institutions. An outward action could be to support vulnerable local communities with pro bono legal support for access to jurisdiction. What could towns, cities, and villages do? Municipalities should monitor and strive to eliminate internal corruption and enact thorough transparency guidelines. An inward action could be, for instance, to strive for transparency and accountability of public services delivered. And an outward action could be to encourage citizens' participation in decision-making and to lobby for transparency in all institutions for providing public access to information concerning their operations. What might other types of organizations do? So businesses or not-for-profit organizations. They should conduct business responsibly. That relates to strategic social investment, public policy engagement, and collective action to build peace, to fight corruption, and to respect the rule of law. They should also encourage transparency in business in general. An inward action could be to implement anti-bribery policies and code of conduct based on values and compliance, as well as effective, accountable, and transparent governance. An outward action could be to work with governments and civil society to eliminate corruption in all its forms, or to work with suppliers and business partners to comply with international standards concerning SDG 16. Then the deck takes you through an activity where you can design potential contributions for an organization of your choice, and also to help you double-check your designs against the aspects of systemic sustainability. Then you'll be asked to reflect upon your learning for this SDG, and you'll be pointed to further information where you can learn more. Eventually, you'll come to the SDG journey, where we'll ask you to observe your environment under the SDG 16 umbrella for a week. So we want you to keep your ears and eyes open to what's going on around the world in this regard, and also in your immediate environment. You might notice emerging issues related to violence or conflict or bribery or injustices. And we want you to think about how or why these things are happening and what different actors are doing to prevent them. This is it for SDG 16. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in another deck.